Hello, everyone, and welcome to the My Self-Reliance Tuesday night community chat. I'm Kelly Wilkins, your host, and it's so good to be with you. This is the first call for 2025, and we have so many great topics lined up for you this year. I'm so glad to see you all again. We've taken a big break over Christmas as I've moved house, and if you've been following our journey, we didn't just move house, we moved to our dream property. And so this has been at least 5 years in the making. And it's been so exciting. And you would think moving onto your dream property, you're just going to be all full of vim and vigor. But somehow I got sick in the middle of that with overactive thyroid. And if you don't know what an overactive thyroid is, it really controls your emotional center and your energy and everything. So when that went down on the day of the move, that's when I found out. So everything shut down for me, and for a little while I was not moving off the couch. And that's, for anyone who knows me, that's just not me. So fortunately, I had such a beautiful array of community of people reaching out and helping me and providing me with lots of lovely natural health solutions, and that got me through until I could find a doctor in my area. And now I'm on some medication, but weaning off that. So already what happened for me, I just really want to quickly share with you. Everything in your body, it doesn't happen for no reason, right? I'm a healthy person. Why would I get sick? Well, it really boiled down for me to an emotional component. And I said, okay, so what's going on? What am I not expressing? Because really your thyroid likes to hold a lot of expression right there in your throat. That's where you do your talking. And, I'm a person that can ask for anything and get help. And so it wasn't that. It actually, for me, what resonated, and it was just through a process of asking questions and feeling into what's true for me, was that I was feeling guilty for leaving my community in Sydney. And I know, as crazy as that sounds, and how does that make a difference? I actually, when I realized that was what was going on, everything started to settle down, and my thyroid levels have halved. So I am on the way to recovery, and that's all good news. So I share that because I know that a lot of people are challenged by health issues. And I think, sometimes these things happen for a reason, that is not just about, fixing it with outside influences, medical influences necessarily. You need that. Everyone said, don't give up that. You need the crutches while you need to have the broken leg. Go with that. But sometimes these things can be healed on the inside as well. So, all right. Now I want to introduce you to our speaker for this evening, and I'm super, super excited because Craig O'Sullivan has agreed to join us tonight. Let me bring you on, Craig. Welcome. Now, there's a reason Craig is here tonight, and it's because Craig has been Simon's coach. That's my husband, for the past, I don't know, 3 years, Craig? Just like 3, maybe 2?
2 and a bit years, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And so Craig has coached Simon in his inspired property business to go from one person to now 6 people. And, he's seen the results of growing in his leadership and growing his business. And I engaged Craig as we came onto this property. Now we're starting a whole new business called Lily Ponds Retreat. And Craig is now guiding me through that, because that's a whole new kettle of fish for me. But really what Craig is great at is helping people become leaders. And and amongst other things, Craig. So, just so that everyone gets to know you a little bit, tell us about you and how you got to be where you are.
Okay, well, that's actually a very broad question. Like, who are you and how'd you get to
What
where
did
you
you do?
are? Well,
Why are you here?
well, in my 40 plus years on this planet, there's been a lot that's gotten me to where I am. But yeah, look, I actually kind of want to just jump on one quick thing that you just said. I help people become leaders. That's actually not correct.
Mhm.
What I actually do is I help draw out of people the leader that is actually already inside of them, because we are all leaders. We're all leading in some area of our life, whether it just be leading friends, leading our family, leading in a church group, leading in our business, leading whatever. Like, there's always someone that you are leading and someone that you're influencing. And so, um, what I generally do is working with people to help them identify them. For me, purpose is the most important thing, right? It all comes down to purpose. I built my entire leadership model around purpose. That there's no point in me trying to act like another leader, because that's not my purpose. I've been created, designed, I've got my own experiences and qualifications and everything that has made me into who I am. And the best way for me to lead is to lead from an authentic place of who I am. And that's the most important thing. As you become a leader in your community, in whatever, you'll notice that if you're just putting on a mask, if you're just trying to, let's just talk about friends groups. Friends groups, like, if you're trying to act like the fun one, the energetic one, but you're actually a little bit more, reserved or whatever, yes, you'll get some attention, but you'll notice that that influence doesn't grow because it's not authentic. Or it will grow for a season and then it will come crashing down. But yeah, kind of now I'm getting into my teaching a little bit much, but let me give you a little bit more about who I am. Um, I'm an Australian. However, I currently live in the Dominican Republic. I moved here in 2021, so in the kind of in the middle of the pandemic. I was married to a Dominican woman in living in Australia. We had literally had our first son in July of 2020. So we were as we were having the baby, all the different regulations and the rules and everything were changing of like whether we're allowed to be in there and what you could do and like all that sort of stuff. I was living in now I've lost the name of the place. Well, now I've forgotten the name
In
of the place
Australia
where I was living.
or in
In
Dominican?
Australia, just south of the New South Wales border.
Oh,
Now I've gone blank. Now I've
not
gone
Byron
blank.
Bay.
Not Byron Bay, just above Kingscliff. Kingscliff.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's been that long. So we were living in Kingscliff, but all of my family were in Queensland, which was literally just 5 minutes away, and none of them were allowed to visit, and we were all on complete lockdown and everything like that. So we decided to move here so that my son could experience this side of his culture. And yeah, that was 4 years ago. And life throws a lot of different obstacles at you, and and you just need to be ready for change. But there was something you said earlier, Kelly, about that really resonated with me, is that you moved to a new location and you felt guilty of leaving your community behind. Yeah, I felt that. That was probably the toughest thing. And moving to a my heart's always been on the Gold Coast. I've spent most of my adult life on the Gold Coast and worked with a lot of, like, built an amazing community on the Gold Coast with, you know, my social circles, my business, my most of my business influence. So, I was coaching a lot of people on the Gold Coast, and and across Australia. But like that was something that was very difficult. Was now uprooting everything, moving to a new country, new language, new time zone, because now it's 5:30 a.m. Here. And
Well, thank you for that too. I just want to acknowledge that too, for getting up so early to be with us.
Of course, of course. Look, I work with clients literally all across the world now, and so look, time doesn't kind of exist, and nor does sleep for me. So if I look a little tired, please excuse me. Um, but yeah, look, to go back to kind of like the who am I? I I've always loved business. That's always been something that I've found that I've gravitated to even from a very young age. I was running my own business. Both my parents run their own businesses, um, and if I wasn't running my own business, I had someone from a young age, I was very fortunate to have some very influential business people that kind of took me under their wing and gave me kind of open open season on their businesses to do what I wanted within their businesses. So it was a great opportunity. And then um, I was running an events management company, and was running events all across Australia and all across the world. And then the financial crisis hit, GFC, in 2008. And obviously the first thing to go is events, because it's a luxury thing that they do. So my business overnight just became nothing. I was going from running international events and for international brands and everything like that to literally within a space of about 2 weeks not having any money. Um, and so I'm a qualified teacher. That was something that I did in, like, okay, I tried to impress a girl, so I got a university degree. Like, that was it. I was running my businesses at the time, but I'm like, I'll do a
You're allowed to
university
cook if
degree.
you want to impress the girl. Come on.
Well, her family wouldn't accept me unless I had a piece of paper. So I'm like, all right, I'll just go to university. So I went and
And
got
then you became a teacher. Yeah.
yeah. So I have a dual degree in human movement studies and education. And so when the global financial crisis hit, I just went and did teaching, because it was schools didn't shut down. Well, at that time, not like COVID where schools shut down, but GFC, everything shut down but schools. And so I went and taught for a little bit. And on the holidays, I realized my dad's company was not running well. Like, it was falling apart. And I didn't realize. I went into his office one day and was just looking around. And in that day that I was there, just kind of helping him sort out the office or whatever, I found over $40,000 worth of work that hadn't been invoiced because they weren't running things properly. And so I stepped in and helped my father build that up. And we increased the team. We moved to a commercial premises. He was just running it from his home. And then
I just want to
set it up.
before you go further, Craig.
Yeah.
And I just want to point out to everyone, because we are in the business of my self-reliance, and I'm always drilling down on people at this point that when the crisis hit, or that you need a plan B, if you've got skills and training, then you've got options.
Yeah.
And because you had those skills, you had options. And so
Exactly.
and that makes you become self-reliant, right? You're not someone
really good.
Give me a job. Oh, you go, oh no, I'm going to go create something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's perfect. Let me add to that, because it's not just having qualifications or having some skills. 100%, you have to have that. And that's actually one thing. If you look at my resume, I've done a lot of random things, like supposedly random things. But each of them, I have actually drawn a lot of experience. When I was younger, I just said yes to everything. Any opportunity, said yes. Any opportunity, said yes. And when I was there, I always just was like a sponge, on trying to ask as many questions as soon as I got around someone. I always this you've obviously heard this saying of like the best, don't be the smartest person in the room, be the dumbest person in the room. I've always tried to position myself around people, and hey, if I happen to be smarter than people, I can still learn from those other people. So I act like I'm not the smartest person in the room. I always try to be a sponge to acquire a lot of knowledge and things. That's been something I've been really fortunate to do. But I'll also add, Kelly, one of the keys that has always gotten me through, because we had the global financial crisis, and then I've had other events that have happened throughout my life. COVID hit, I've moved to a different country, everything like that. There's been one thing, my skills and experience has been a great value, but the number one thing that has helped me be self-reliant, as Kelly terms it, is that I'm always focused on adding value. It's how can I add value to you? Whenever I'm talking to anyone in that moment, I'm not trying to think about how can I make money from you, or how can I sell you something that I do. Not at all. My number one intention in every interaction is how can I add value? Like what can I do for you? What's something lacking? I mean, even even yesterday, I was so we'll get real personal. I'm going through a really ugly divorce at the moment, unfortunately. Um, and yesterday I was in court, and today I'm going back to court after this. I'm going to prepare for more court today. Um, and I was just sitting and waiting for our session in court, and my lawyer was I was just talking to him, and obviously my lawyer is there to help me and to protect me and save me. But I was literally sitting there going, "How's business? What's going on? Like, how's your team? Like because I'm sitting there trying to think of how can I help you? You're helping me, but how can I help you?" And I found out that he's starting a new brand, and it's really slow because he's doesn't have the time to focus on it. And we found out he needs a new website and needs a few like. And I'm like, "Oh, great. All right. You send me information. I'll get my team to do it for you. Done." Because I've got a full team of digital marketing strategists that, we do websites and ads and social media and everything like that. I'm like, great. I'll do it for you. Let me do that for you. Right.
It's good to know that
Because,
you have all those skills and that the team behind you as well to do tick all those boxes. We just heard websites and design. So anyone who's in business and is like, oh, I need help with my website, or design work, or all that stuff that sometimes creative business owners don't like Craig is onto it. So I want to just flip this conversation and really, because we don't want to run out of time, but
go.
come back, drill down into now you said, I love that you started with that we're all business or all leaders, like the same.
Mhm.
We are all salespeople, and people hate that they don't want to think themselves as a salesperson. Well, you are really, because if you're a parent, then you need to engage your children, then you're using techniques. That's all part of that, right?
Mhm.
The same with leadership. If you're a parent, there's leadership. If you even if you think you go anywhere, you sit on the back row. Well, maybe you're leading from the back, but tell us.
Mhm.
And as we think about it, leadership styles have changed over the years, and what we used to think is like that, this top down heavy kind of, that's how, if you're at the top, then you're the leader. It doesn't look that way anymore, does it? It's like, like as in a good leader,
Yeah. Look, hey, I've got this tagline for my leadership stuff is I'm on a mission to eradicate poor leadership. Now, I'm not aiming to eradicate poor leaders. It's the poor leadership. It's the leadership principles. It's the leadership practices that I'm trying to eliminate. And yeah, it's interesting that you say, Kelly, it's changed, but it hasn't changed. We're just becoming more aware. That's what it is. Because previously, and we all know the type of leader that is this dominant, authoritarian, sometimes narcissistic, and everything like that. we see them and we we see on the outside that they're doing really well. They've got lots of followers on Instagram. They've got lots of people turning up to their events. They're making lots of money. So all of these superficial metrics they're doing great on. But when you peek behind the curtain, they're actually not that good of a leader because they're churning through staff, they're churning through. This is one thing I will admit I'm embarrassed for, because I used to look at all these big leaders, especially in the personal development space, and you look at them all and they're all on like second, third, fourth marriages, and I'm like, if you're that good at personal development, why can't you keep together the marriage? And here I am talking to you about me going through divorce court right now. So I understand how hypocritical it is. I get that. However, one thing that I did actually learn through this whole process is, at the end of the day, you can't force someone to do something if they're not willing to be a part of your team or your relationship or whatever. There's nothing you can do, but you can do everything you can.
Craig,
Now, that being said,
let's all be transparent, right? Like, I've always grown up with the notion that you get married for life and for all eternity. That's my notion. And I was 3 years into my first marriage when it fell apart, and I got divorced. And actually, some things are a blessing in your life.
Yep.
And they're not a curse. You grow from them, and it's the other person's choice. You wouldn't have chosen that.
100%.
Choice.
Yeah.
And so thank you for choosing that, because now you've given me some freedom. I did that. I needed the freedom, but it's blessed me.
Yeah, I think that was the number one thing, because I never believed in divorce, and but that was the number one thing that got me through, is like, hang on a second, everyone has free will. I can't force my will on someone else. I only have my own will, and she has her will, and her decision was not to be a contributing member or abuse or whatever. Like, there's so many different scenarios that they make their own choices, and not everyone makes their own choice. Now, the thing is, even if it was your choice and it fell apart, you now have the choice to make it better and move on and be better in the future. But going back to that leadership style, there's two different types of leadership. Now, depends what book you read. Now, I actually talk about, even in my coaching program, I have like this a year-long coaching program, and I talk about teaching leadership styles, and there's probably about 3 or 4 different methods that I actually teach. There's a whole bunch of different, but for this analogy, I want to focus on, there's 2 different types of leadership. One is indirect leadership, and the other one is direct leadership. Now, the indirect leadership is the one that you would normally see that's making it successful. The one on stage, the one on TV, the one on social media, because that's indirect leadership. It's influence from afar. And just because where I actually see the poor leadership come into play is, there's some people that are gifted as indirect leaders. They're meant to be on a stage. They're meant to be amazing. They're meant to be like up on the spotlights and everything like that. They're meant to be leading the organizer, the CEO or whatever. They're great at indirect leadership. And that's needed, because we need that inspiration from afar. We need that kind of guiding light to kind of chase towards and aspire towards, and that's really good. However, where I see most leaders fall down is, they either choose to not develop their direct leadership because they think that because they're such a good indirect leader, they think, I'm a great leader, I've got all turning up to my events, and they don't focus on the fact that they need to be a direct leader. Or they just pretend. Now, You want to know what's the direct leadership? The direct leadership is the one-on-one stuff we do with people. The direct leadership is the actual mentoring, the day-to-day. And you need the two. Like, so for example, let's put it in a sorry, I'm just going to turn on my air conditioner. It's starting to get hot here.
Let's think about it in two ways. Let's talk about it in a business context and in a community context.
Perfect. So indirect leadership is you jumping on social media and inspiring people. You trying to get a message out there and trying to like draw in people that are. Here's the thing. If you're trying to build your influence, so many people try to go out and they try to convert people. Your job as a leader is not to convert people. Your job is to attract the people that already think like you. And going back to that thing that Kelly said is we're all salespeople, 100%, we're all salespeople. But it's much easier to sell someone who's already sold on the idea than try to sell someone who doesn't believe in the idea. So especially now, some people are evangelists and they are built to go out and just stand in the crowd of haters and convert them to their way of thinking. Great. But that goes once again back to purpose. What is your purpose? Most people, there's not many people that are actually, their purpose is to be that evangelist conversion type. Your job, especially when you're starting to try to build your influence, why would you waste hours, days, weeks, months trying to convert this one person to think the way that you can, where you could just go out there, spread your message and try to attract 100 people who already think the way that you think? That's much easier, isn't it? Now, later on, you can move on with building up you're trying to convert people and everything, 100%. But there's stages to what you do. At the start, you want to be indirectly inspirational, trying to attract those people who already think like you. That's the key. Like, people think that, oh, that person has millions of followers and everything like that. No, they've just got millions of people that they've been able to articulate their message in a way that connects with other people. That's all it is. So you need to find a way to articulate your vision, articulate what it is that you believe, what it is, the change you want to make. Like, for example, me just saying I want to eradicate poor leadership. It's easy. It resonates with people because I guarantee you, as soon as I said that, each and every one of you were thinking about a time where you had dealt with a bad leader. And when you probably stuck on that word eradicate and probably, oh, I'd love to shoot that person or whatever. But right, you need to find a way to articulate your message that will resonate with the masses. Now, I'm not talking about watering down your message. I'm not saying about that. What I'm saying is find a way to articulate it in the most common denominator, lowest common denominator, right? I'm not talking about dumbing down your message. I'm talking about simplifying your words. Because especially when we're really into something and something is really part of like who we are, whether it be your business, whether it be religion, whether it be a hobby or whatever, when you get really into it, you start speaking all these terminologies and slang and lingo and everything from that thing that people that aren't exactly like you don't understand that, and if they don't understand that, they won't connect with you. So you have to find a way to be able to communicate in a way that everyone who you want to communicate with, and that's why it's important for you to know who you want to communicate to. Let's say I'm a computer programmer and I want to communicate to other computer programmers. I'm able to talk ones and zeros to them because they understand ones and zeros. That's the lowest common denominator of the people that I'm talking to. So that's why it's important. You need to know, who is it that I wanted to attract as an audience, and find the lowest common denominator to be able to communicate to those people enough information so that the more advanced people of that still connect with you, but also simple enough that even the most beginner person can resonate with you. So that's indirect leadership. Yep.
Pain point and having them resonate with a message that you have that helps them to understand that you understand their pain points, for instance, or inspiration points. I don't either.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. The carrot or the stick, right? Basic psychology. We're all going for the carrot or running away from the stick. But that's it. Like, that's all you need to know about sales, business, marketing, leadership, whatever. People are either running towards a carrot or away from a stick. That's it.
Now, I want to now transition to another part of leadership, and dealing with conflict in your organization, perhaps.
Okay, great. Yes.
Can apply to parents. Everyone has an organization, whether it's your immediate or be something. Yeah.
Yep. So actually, that's probably a good transition because I spoke about indirect leadership. Now the other part is the direct leadership, right? The mentoring. This is now not the sharing the inspirational message to attract and inspire people. It's now to actually be a real leader now. You can't just attract followers, but you got to build followers. And I don't mean build number of followers. I'm talking about building the individual. And I think that's where most people struggle with their leadership is they think that leadership is just about attracting followers. No, it's about building the individual. That's what leadership is. That's why for me, I have over my career, I've led teams of hundreds, and I've been in seasons where I've led one. And none of them actually made, I was never disappointed. I'm like, I'm just leading one. No, because I'm pouring as long as one person is growing, I'm doing my job. Conflict. There's so much I could say.
You've just
so much.
So, growing, Mind Self-Reliance, we're all about growth. Personal growth is everything to me. And, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't work on myself daily and, keep turning myself inside out. The best thing sometimes that happens to us are the turning your challenges into triumphs, and you grow as a person. That's when you know that you can help others because you've been
100%. Yeah. So my leadership model that I developed was focused on three things. First of all, we lead ourselves, we lead outcomes, and we lead others. We've got to do those three things. We can't just be leading other people and not growing ourselves. Every day I'm doing personal development, personal/professional development. Even though I was already in leadership positions and doing great in leadership, I went and did a master's in leadership because I'm like, I want to learn more. I want to, that we have to continually grow. I'm a PD junkie, right? I'm a PD junkie. Anything that's on, I'll turn up to, right? So going to your question about how long are we going for, Kel? When are we finishing?
We actually usually wrap up within about an hour. So yeah, so maybe another 15, 20.
Okay. All right. This is my problem. I have too much to share and I want to share everything. Let me finish on that point, and then I saw some saw someone asking questions. Everything we could open it up to a bit of a Q&A. So about conflict, because I think that this is a very important part of leadership, because you as a leader, you don't want yes men, right? If you've just got a bunch of yes men, you're not a leader, you're a cult. right? Like that's pretty much it, right? And unfortunately, I see a lot of them out there as well. Not cults, but I see a lot of leaders just leading like people are just worshiping them, just yes man, and they just get caught up. They drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak. So I think from personal experience, having been going through divorce recently, that's probably the toughest conflict you can deal with. I think the number one thing that has actually helped me get through it is empathy. Empathy. The best way to deal with conflict is with empathy. I always try to think, where is this other person coming from? Now, remember, there's a big difference between empathy and sympathy, right? They're on two polar opposites. Sympathy means I feel your pain. And so that means I suffer the same emotions as you. Empathy means I have understanding for where you're coming from, but I'm not drawn into that emotion. Because the problem is, if you have sympathy, sometimes it can actually aggravate the conflict because then you're both in this emotional hole, right? So I would say the first thing of dealing with conflict is empathy.
Mm.
For example,
I love that.
my
Empathy and compassion.
empathy and compassion, 100%. Well, I don't think you can have empathy without compassion.
Yes.
But it's good to emphasize that point. Like, I mean, sorry to harp on, but I know we all go through bad situations for a reason. Hopefully someone else can learn from this. Like, so for example, with my divorce, things got really nasty. Or actually even before like we got divorced, it wasn't a great, now it wasn't a toxic, it wasn't like abusive, but it wasn't bad, it wasn't a good relation. We were just two separate people. And when when I decided to, or when no, I didn't decide to get divorced or separate. When I accepted that the relationship wasn't existing, that was kind of it. I wasn't mad at her for all the things she'd done. Now, I could have been, because I've got a laundry list of all the things she did, and she has a laundry list of all the things that I did as well. Like, I'm not innocent. But all what I did is, like, I went back and I thought to myself, okay, so where does all this stem from? Where was it all? And what I realized is, even from the start of our marriage, she never actually wanted to be married. She thought that she wanted to marry. She loved the idea of being married, but didn't actually want to be married. Like, didn't want the commitment of marriage. Didn't understand what being a partnership and doing things together. And so then that laundry list of things that she'd done all stemmed back from just the fact that she didn't actually want to be married. And so I was able to understand where she was coming from. She did that because she didn't understand this, or she didn't want that, or whatever. And so having empathy of, like, if someone does something in your family, in your in your work, in your community groups, anything like that, anyone does anything that's unforgivable, I would suggest the first thing you need to do is seek to understand before you go to blame. Seek to understand them before, because I'm an overthinker. And when I go into anything, I go like, she did this, or he did that, or they did this, or whatever, like, and I've got all the evidence right here ready to unload. But whenever I go into a moment of conflict, the first thing I always do is I ask a question. I always ask questions. What was going on? Why did you say that? Why did you do that? Why did this happen? What were you thinking? Have all of you played the why game? Have you ever done that, where you ask someone a question of why, and all what you do, like you ask them a first question, then all what you respond with every one of their answers is why. Now, it does get annoying.
The 7 layers
Hey,
why.
that's it. Yep.
And
Now,
so the title, what is it? The 7 habits of highly effective people is
highly effective.
first seek to understand before you need to be understood.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Now, I wouldn't suggest just keep asking why when you're in a conflict. That won't be helpful. But go on that same theory of just it's never their first answer. It's
Yeah.
never their first answer. So you should not, and this is one thing we talk about leadership is communication. Communication is two ways. It's not just me speaking. It's me speaking and you understanding. And then it comes back with a response. That's communication, right? Not me say something, then you attack something, then me say something, and then you like it's not that's a fight. That's not communication.
Prepared answers.
Right?
I don't know what I'm going to
Yeah.
say. Yes.
Exactly. When someone's talking, when that person is talking, don't think about what are the problems or what's the problem with what they're saying and how can I argue this? How can I fight? No. What you should only be thinking is why are they saying this? Where is this coming from? How can I understand them a little bit more? And so when they finish what they say, I usually then ask another question like, when you said this, do you mean this? Rather than jumping on, you said this, or you, no, did you actually mean that? Because usually it's a miscommunication, right? And so I would say in conflict, the greatest thing is empathy, but seeking to understand. Seeking to understand. Ask questions. And usually if you just ask them a bunch of questions, by the end of it, they will normally address the issue themselves and acknowledge it rather than you going, you did this. Now,
I think one of Andrew asked the question in the chat, which is going to be one of my questions actually. So I really like the question. And you know, because there is there a difference between your corporate, your boss, your employee relationship versus an organization where there's volunteers and you know, in a community context?
In theory, okay, so here's the thing that I say. I teach perfect leadership. I don't do perfect leadership. There is no such thing as perfect leadership, right? There's lots of things that in theory, throughout all my training, if everything in theory worked, then the answer to that is no. There is no difference between leading a business versus leading a team of volunteers. However, at the end of the day, there are different motivations. So, and this kind of goes back to why in the perfect world, no, because we should be leading people. Like I said, we lead ourselves, lead outcomes, and lead others all through their purpose. We lead ourselves through from our purpose. We only work on outcomes or lead outcomes that have a purpose, and we have to lead other people through their purpose. In the ideal world, your employee in a business, their purpose should align with your purpose in vision. However, their purpose for this season may just be I need to earn money. That might be their purpose. And so it's your responsibility as the leader to understand what is their purpose. If their purpose is just the money, then you lead them towards the money. They're not performing, you motivate them with money, you punish them with money, whatever, right? Like, you know, like you understand that that's their purpose, so you lead from that purpose. If their purpose is they're aligned with the vision of the organization and everything like that, then you lead them that way. So yes, you lead differently, but your leadership style should still be the same. You're still leading from whatever purpose that person has. Now, in a volunteer organization, they better align with the vision because they don't have the money as a benefit, right? So I feel like volunteer organizations expose poor leadership a lot quicker because people won't stand for it, because at work you bite your tongue because, oh, well, at least I'm being paid, right? But you don't have that in a volunteer organization. And that's why you see a lot of community groups and everything like that fracture because there's poor leadership. Someone goes, I can do this better, and then they split the group and then they form another one and stuff like that. So in theory, yes, you lead them the same because you should be leading everyone from purpose, but in practical application, how you motivate, how you inspire people, how you mentor people is slightly different depending on what their purpose is, what's their reason for being in that role. Does that answer the question?
Explain, yeah, beautifully. Can you explain what is a servant leader?
A servant leader is, I hesitate sometimes because I want to run my mouth too much. A servant leader is what all leaders should be in reality. I think leaders need to flip the script. A lot of people, unfortunately, and this is not everyone, here's the thing. There's a lot of poor leadership, but it seems to be poor leadership in the spotlight, right? There are a lot of incredible leaders that are in the background that you don't hear of, that you don't see on social media because they're not posting about themselves because they're just doing good leadership and that's it.
This is
And
probably the antithesis
yeah,
of the servant leader, right? Is that you're not
exactly.
all about me.
Exactly. And this kind of goes back to what your first question about how it's changed. You can go back through history and you can see there are a lot of amazing leaders that you just never heard about. And you only hear about them if you do research into certain organizations. Why did that organization do well? Or what happened with that community group or whatever? The challenge is, unfortunately, the spotlight attracts the wrong type of leader because they're in it for themselves because they want the spotlight.
Okay, so where is a servant leader coming from then?
A servant leader is not in the spotlight, but a servant leader is just, you're there because you genuinely just want to help other people be better people. Like I said from the start, my job is to grow people. That's it. As a leader, I'm there to grow one person or 1,000,000 people. Whatever it is, my job is to grow other people. And so that's where you see a hierarchy chart, right?
You there?
Yes.
Because I have seen it and in working with Simon, right?
Yes.
How do you think that you have grown Simon from one person to 6?
Oh, there's so many factors. That's the thing. Like it's not just teaching to be a good leader. That's the thing with growing a team. There has to be growth.
Because I want to help you narrow this down because we only have a few minutes.
Yes, please.
So I know that you have a lot of methodology. You do spend a lot of time actually in the nuts and bolts of the business.
Yes.
Right? But I know at the end, the beginning and the end of every meeting, you're checking in with where his mindset is at and you're leaving with a prayer.
Yep.
And you've centered him on, creating good people around him, having good systems, having good, that methodology. And, you've created him being able to run a team, whereas before, he was just on his own doing his thing, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think's been, happened in there?
Once again, it comes down to the individual. There's no blanket answer for that. It's about leading people through.
Can you remember his challenges back when he started?
Now I'm trying to think. Simon's perfect. He's never had any challenges.
Because he's going to be on this call next week, right? And we're going to talk about how he's grown, how he can help others through property investment become self-reliant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
And he's always been good at that. We get it, right? But he always hasn't always picked the right people for his team. Hasn't always surrounded himself with the right people, but something's shifted in him, which now he has. And sometimes when you shift something within yourself, you do get around the right people and you attract the right people to you, as we were talking about before. So, and I am not privy to the conversations you have all the time with him, right? So I go, well, something's happened, right? It's the CRM, maybe it's all business training, but it can't be, because I know that you guys put God first and you're prayerful. And I want to acknowledge that. And that is a massive part of where I think, who I am, my identity and character and who I am for others comes back to that I'm here doing God's purpose.
Yeah,
I
100%.
But it's wrapped up in, a higher purpose.
Yeah, 100%. I'm struggling because the thing is obviously I've been coaching Simon. We've been working together for 2.5 years or something like that now, and we've met every 2 weeks, and we are usually in session for 2 or 3 hours. So to sum up all of that time together in like, what have we done? Actually, I would say here's this is to sum it up. We've worked step by step. That's what we've done. We've broken it down and just gone, okay, let's just address the next thing first. Not trying to grow too fast, not trying to build this, Now, fortunately or unfortunately, Simon has actually had an incredible growth over that time. So we've actually had to do some catching up. We've constantly been kind of, looking behind, trying to catch up at a stage. But we haven't been running ahead of ourselves, right? And as you're building, if you try to build too quickly, it will fall down, because you're going to build a house of cards rather than a house of bricks, right? And so you have to work on the foundation. In our sessions, we do talk business, we talk leadership, we talk personal, we do pray, we talk spiritual. We have a holistic conversation about things that you need to be complete in all areas to have that solid foundation. I think that's the key. We go through this activity called ropes, right? Which is, kind of, other people call it that. It's been called the spear of life, circle of life, and all that sort of stuff. That we talk about spiritual, we talk about business, we talk about family and health and all that sort of stuff, because you have to have all of it. You can't be wealthy and be sick, because then you can't enjoy your wealth. You can't be really good at business and have no time for your family. There has to be a balance. I don't like that word, balance, but there has to be not equal, but there has to be, I'm trying not to go into my whole teaching about this, but yeah.
You sprint towards a goal and things that look like they're out of balance, but then you bring it back together. And I love Roman Newsted's book, you can have it all, just not at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's I love that. You know, we look at that life as a wheel, and yeah, we did that on the weekend at our retreat actually, and you know, realign and set goals. Okay, what area am I doing really well in? What area needs a little bit more attention? And it's good to have somebody to bounce that off with and reflect. And I think everybody should have a coach. You know, it doesn't matter, you know, whether you're in business or whether you hold a position or you don't, you know, having a coach allows you to move forward because there's somebody holding you accountable. There's somebody to allow you to steer you in the right direction. And so, you know, that's my tip. One of the things, and we'll get into this as we go along in through the year, is that if you don't have a business, then there's so many businesses that are like a business in a box with that are like direct sales. And I came from a long history of direct sales before my self-reliance. And I love that because it taught me everything that I now know about running a business, about running teams, about personal development, about, you know, growing in leadership. And so I'm going to highlight a few different direct sales leaders and help alternatives as we go along, because I think there's value in starting somewhere. You know, I start somewhere. Start with a business in a box if you don't already have one. Start volunteering for an organization if and align with someone who, you know, thinks the way that you do. If you don't, you know, have a church but be in an active community, because that will bring you forward.
100%.
Yeah. So
look, and actually to go look to get echo that and to add on to that is, you mentioned about servant leadership. That's literally how I rose to every single one of my leadership positions, every business that I had or whatever, all literally started because I went and volunteered for someone. I went and served someone. I literally I went and volunteered at my local church and just drove the pastor around to meetings and just kind of listened in and everything like that. And eventually in the space of, I think it was like 2 years or whatever, I was running my own church. Right, like it was the fastest growing church plant in Australia in our movement at that time. Like it was just like, it was all because I can go to every single thing that I did. It was because I went and served my dad's company. I just went to help him out in the office, and eventually I ended up running the whole thing and selling it, and my dad retired. You know, you're muted. Go.
Hear me?
You.
Just telling
So
around to be a bit.
okay. So yeah, everything I've done, my business coaching, I just started by just literally volunteering, finding people that were the best in their business and just got in their world. Some were paid, some were volunteered, some were I paid, you know, like, but that's what I've done. I've just gone and found someone that I align with, that I'm like, I want something that that person has. And I went and just literally just served them. And I think that that's probably a key to servant leadership is a servant leader needs to first be serving other leaders because then you just develop this heart of servanthood, and then it just oozes from you. You're not expecting other people to serve you. You're just used to serving people. And that's how you attract people.
I want to plug my self-reliance is growing hub leaders. And we're looking for people who want the My Self-Reliance events and activities in your own area. And so if you want to become a hub leader, it means partnering with me so that we can create, you know, one of my places of guilt is that when I was in Sydney, I was creating monthly activities so that we could gather together and build resilience and learn skills. And so, you know, now I'm 3 hours north of Sydney. I'm like, Right. Well, we just have to do that over a weekend instead of in a 2-hour time slot. But I want to make this available for people everywhere. So that's if you want to volunteer as a hub leader, that's what we want. And we also are gearing up for our next our Freedom Summit in October. So there is space on the committee for one or two people. So there's some places that people can volunteer and also at the summit as well in October. So more on that later. But Craig, you actually are coming to Australia very, very soon. I think
Yes, I am.
This time next week. And you're going to be doing some talks and some travel and here, and you're actually going to come and see me on my property. So what is your visit?
Okay, well, the initial purpose is my niece is getting married, so I'm coming back for my niece's wedding. But while I'm there, or while I'm on that side of the planet, I'm coming down to Sydney, catch up with my clients, everything like that, and then obviously Simon and a couple of my other clients were like, let's put on an event. You're here, like let's take advantage of it. It's the first time we've been back in the country for 4 years, so we're doing an event that's based around the 3 pillars that you need to actually build a scalable business that is sustainable. Because it's like the leadership, operations, and lead generation. So they're the 3 keys that you need to really build a business. Obviously, here I've had half an hour that we've really been talking, just over half an hour. As you could, I hope you could tell, there was so much wanting to come out of me that I was trying to hold it in. We're going to spend a full day together, and lunch is provided, everything like that. And I'm going to be going through each of those things in detail. Now, like I said, my background is teacher.
Right. Can anyone attend that, or is it just for
anyone?
Okay.
Yeah, anyone can attend that.
Have links to that to how people can get tickets?
Yeah, do you want me to put it in the chat? Or do I send it to you, or is it best to send it in the chat?
You can send it in the chat. That'd be if you possibly can, and I will add links after the recording and also in the next email. But what date is that?
Okay. So that is April 1. So the 1st of April, Tuesday, the 1st of April. We're going to cover those 3 pillars, and it's not a.
And what's the location?
Rose Hill Bowling Club.
Oh, that's so central in Sydney. That's excellent. Yeah,
it was all Simon. It was Simon who put it all together for me. He's been an incredible support to get that going. But yeah, we've got that. Like, look, who's it for? Yes, it's for business owners, but really it's for any organization. It's helpful because any community group, any social group, whatever, you need to be a better leader. You need to run more efficiently with your operations, and you need to learn to attract people. So we're going to be covering all of those things, and it's going to be a practical day. It's not just a talk at you. I make sure that's really practical. So
it sounds like you'd be there.
Go and check it out. Go and check it out. And if you've got any questions, obviously hit up Kel, and you can ask her questions through there as well. Sorry?
How much are tickets?
$90 plus GST.
Okay.
And that's for a full day training. We cover all those things, as well as like morning tea, coffee, lunch, and afternoon tea is all provided as well.
Awesome. You throw the food in, we're there. That's sensational.
Yeah. Actually, do you want to know why I'm throwing in the food? To keep you in the room.
Like, you don't have to go anywhere.
Keep you in the room. We can cover more then, right? Like it's so much more effective. I like to, whenever I do these events, I like to just dump as much as possible. So yeah, that was part of the reason. Is like, one, we want to make sure it's really valuable for people, and 2, I want to keep you in the room. So
you do.
Yeah.
Now I've got a question in the chat. I've been working for others constantly, and now I'm looking to set up on my own. will this help also? In particular, I want to understand how to best approach roadblocks and how not to make it seem so overwhelming. That's kind of what's in the stop. Also, the fear of failure. So would this be beneficial? Is it kind of going to cover those things?
Yeah, I mean, okay. So if you're working for someone else and planning on launching out by yourself, yes, this will be helpful because from the start you can do it right. Here's my big. I have a lot of people that ask me about, oh, I'm working, but I'm trying to start my own thing, and when do I do the transition and everything like that. My advice to you is stay in your job for as long as possible and get your business up and running until the point that it replaces your income anyway, right? Don't make the jump too early. Or as long as you can, stay in there, because why not? So my suggestion to people, if you're planning that transition, is do as much as you can. Education, preparation, lay everything out. Even if it's the type of business that, well, I can't start it until I leave the business, leave my job or whatever. Great. Then stay in your job for as long as possible and build as much as you can. Build all your systems, build all your processes, build all your sales funnels, slowly, like build everything out until you're ready to launch out. And we will be covering that. And I mean, leadership is relevant anywhere. Operational efficiency is relevant anywhere anyway. Your boss will be happier because you're starting to implement some more efficiencies into your job anyway. And then the lead generation stuff, while it's obviously focused on gaining clients, that's relevant to anyone, even in a volunteer group or in your community group or whatever. You need to attract new people, right? Because most of us live in some sort of an echo chamber anyway. We need to break out of that. And how do we do that? Well, I'm gonna show you some practical strategies on how to do that as well.
That is sensational.
Now, there was a lot in that question. Did I answer everything in that question?
I think you did. Yep. And you did it very concisely too. So well done. So we are going to wrap up. I haven't had any other new questions come through. But thank you so much for joining us, Craig. We have learnt a lot about leadership, and this replay will go up on our YouTube channel. It's the My Self Reliance Kelly Wilkins YouTube channel. You can find that on there, and you can go back and have a look at all the topics and the talks that we've done over the last 3 years. So we are into season 4, so that's very exciting. Yeah. So, awesome. Craig,
I'm excited for you, Kel.
Look forward to seeing you in Sydney very, very soon and hosting on our property. And gosh, we've got so much out of tonight. Thanks everyone for joining in the chat room and participating and being here tonight. Don't forget to join us Tuesday night when Simon will give his side of the story.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kelly. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an honor, and thank you everyone for listening in, and I appreciate it. Now, actually, I'm going to leave with one last thing.
Yes.
It's great that I feel like I've shared, but this only makes a difference if you just take the stuff and apply it. So take just one thing that you learned from tonight and apply it to your life tomorrow, right? Like, just please, that'd be the biggest compliment if you could do that.
Yeah, and if nothing else, take the empathy. That I love.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Kelly.
Kelly.
Very good.